The word going around is that Chicago Bulls fans should not be getting comfortable with the Bulls' current roster as wholesale changes are going to happen in the offseason. If you thought the trade deadline was wild, the Bulls may have set themselves up for an even wilder offseason. We're going to talk about that, plus dive into the mailbag and more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Derek Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. I want to get into this quote from K.C. Johnson and use that as a launching point. K.C. Johnson said this. This is only part of it. This is not the roster that they're going to be going into next season with. They're obviously going to have a lot of flexibility going into this offseason. You mentioned all the second-round picks. That is the grease to make trades happen in today's NBA. They obviously have moves, at least that they want to try to get down in the offseason, whether that's signing restricted free agents to offer sheets or taking one of these expiring and adding second-round draft capital to make a trade that way. We'll see where this goes. This will be one part of their deconstruction phase they're taking. So, the Bulls clearly deconstructed their roster. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? Let's just get together. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. There's no room for speculation on that. The Bulls completely destructed their roster, right? I called it a liquidation. The Bulls didn't trade and gain asset. They liquidated assets, and now they're going to try to take that liquidation and go to the next phase with it, right? That's what they're hoping to do. That's what at least seems like they're hoping to do. And when you look at it, we've already talked about all the decisions they have to make on this roster. You have Jaden Ivey, who's a restricted free agent. You have to make a long-term decision on him this offseason. Don't be surprised if that, how that goes, if those negotiations may go long, much like Josh Giddey and the Bulls last year, because they're going to have even smaller sample size. You have guys like Collin Sexton and guys like Anthony Simons as well, who I look at and I say, the Bulls are probably going to try to keep one of those guys unless they have a different target in mind in the offseason. Both those guys are unrestricted free agents. And Anthony Simons may want to join a contender. Maybe the same for Collin Sexton as well, right? So you have that. The Bulls still have basically the same thing they went into the trade deadline with. They still have a number of expiring contracts, right? 6 to be exact. They have 6 expiring contracts heading into the offseason with Jaden Ivey's restricted free agency. And they still have over $120 million in cap space, well, $115 million in cap space. $18 million trade exception, another $3 million trade exception. The Bulls have assets. We know this. We know all the second-round picks that they have. Now, K.C. Johnson says in that this could be where the Bulls want to put out big offer sheets on restricted free agents. We've already talked about that was probably the most realistic route for the Chicago Bulls to go is to restricted free agency more than free agency, because then it kind of fits the motif of what Arturas has done. Young players with experience that then, you can bring in here and add to that core. Jaden Ivey's one of those guys. Hell, Ben Mathurin could still very well be one of those guys, right? You look at other players they can target. We've heard, Jeremy Sohan, who probably is going to get bought out. Do not be surprised, by the way, if Jeremy Sohan is a Chicago Bull after all the buyouts happen. But that we'll save that for another day. Of course, the Walker Kesslers, the Tari Easons, the Mark Williams, right? The Bulls have set themselves to be in a position where they can make huge offer sheets to a lot of the guys, and it doesn't really hurt their flexibility because keep in mind, the Bulls, like when you have players that you planned on keeping, and that's the thing that I said before, right, is that with the Ayos and the Cobys, if they really wanted to keep those guys, you didn't want money tied into restricted free agency that could, limit you being able to sign those guys or determine your roster. Now with the Bulls completely clearing the deck, they can put out multiple offer sheets at one time. So they can put an offer sheet out on Walker Kessler, a walker sheet out on Mark Williams, and basically say, hey, we'll see which one of these guys accepted. Whoever accepts this first, we'll rescind the other offer, right? So you can do that. You can go after guys like I said, Jalen Duren there's no chance, right? I'm just going to say no chance. You put an offer sheet out on your own guy in Jaden Ivey and Ben Mathurin. You can then, if you don't get Walker Kessler or you don't get Mark Williams, you can then turn around, pivot, try to make a trade for Yves Missi, right? So you have guys, Peyton Watson, a guy that we've already heard rumors about that the Chicago Bulls, and many teams around the league are planning big offer sheets, the Lakers being one of those guys, big offer sheets because of the way that he's exploded this season. So the Bulls still have tons of flexibility. And then don't overlook the fact that even the players that they just signed and those guys being unrestricted free agents, you can work out signing trades to help those guys to go to good teams that don't necessarily have the outward cap space. This is going to be an offseason, hopefully, right? And the reason why I say hope is because, again, AK came out of his cave. He made a lot of moves at the trade deadline, 7 or 8 trades at the trade deadline. And now it comes down to, is he going to be that active again? But I think at this point, he has to be that active again personally, right? So, we're going to see what happens. The front office and their thinking is so all over the place, we never really know. One thing that I would like to think the Bulls have to do is find their long-term option at center, whether that's the draft, whether that's free agency. And that's another thing, an aspect we haven't talked about here, is that the draft could even be wild for the Bulls. The Bulls could be going into the 2026 draft with 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks. We're going to have 2 second-round picks regardless. We're going to have at least 1 first-round pick, our own. If we get that Portland pick, that's 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks in a loaded draft. Now, I'm usually one that says consolidate your picks, move up, and get your number 1 target. But in this type of draft, if the Bulls scouting department is really doing their due diligence and AK is listening to those guys, this could be a draft where, no, you want to keep all those picks. Because I tell you what, and maybe the second-round picks, maybe you can bind them to go after a different guy, even though you're probably going to have either the first or second pick in the second round with that New Orleans Pelicans pick. But you may want to keep both those picks because this is a very deep draft. And unless you have a target that you see as a surefire superstar, maybe you can move in the top 5, top 8. If you consolidate those 2 picks and then move in the top 8, maybe you can do that. But this is going to be a very interesting offseason for the Chicago Bulls. That is what they set themselves up to do. As wild as the trade deadline was, and believe me, I did over 10 live streams over 2 days covering all the Bulls' moves. This offseason could be a really big one for it. So what are those changes going to look like? It's hard to say right now, right? Because, again, if the Bulls have 2 picks in the first round, and then another 2 picks in the second round, you just never know where things are going to be. The Bulls could very well just in reality be in position to have 3 picks in the top 32. And that's even not counting the Portland Trail Blazers pick. So we're going to see what's going to happen there, right? So the Bulls they have the chance to hit free agency hard. They have a chance to really try to be aggressive and move in the draft. You have the chance to do all of that. And another less likely situation for the Chicago Bulls is that, hey, what if they want to put in all their chips and try to go after a big fish? Now, I'm saying what if because you never know, but a lot of you guys have talked about Giannis. I don't think Giannis is going to come to the Bulls. I want to be clear here, but if the Bulls do want to put out an offer for Giannis Antetokounmpo, once the draft lottery settles and the Bulls can say, hey, Milwaukee, look, by the way, we got 2 first-round picks in this draft, 2 of them, especially if the Bulls' own pick is in the lottery as well. We got 2 first-round picks we can offer you, a very high second-round pick, and we can match whatever salary you want. Take your pick. Do you want Noah as well as your new young player to build around? The Bulls can do that. I don't think that's likely for the Bulls to push them all in for a star based off what Arturas said. It seems like the Bulls are ready to finally go this route where it's going to take a little bit longer time, but maybe be more sustainable. But if Arturas, who I've already said, has problems with getting impatient at times to do those type of things, this is another offseason. Now, I'm not trying to sell you guys a dream. At the end of the day, I don't think the Bulls had a very great trade deadline because they could have had all this flexibility as well by not doing anything. All they had to do is not re-sign. But then again, if they just did that, they wouldn't have that New Orleans pick. So there you go there. So they have that flexibility to get that done. I had to correct myself. Now, you guys know I'm one that can't correct myself. But the thing that the Bulls have done, and this is the thing that every front office is valuing so much in this modern second tax apron era, which the Bulls will never have to do because we don't even pay the luxury tax. But that's flexibility. The Bulls have tons of flexibility. You want to put out big offer sheets, you can do that. You want to put out a big contract offer for a free agent, even though, like I said, the outward free agent class is full of kind of older veteran players. But if you want to do that, you can do that. You want to try to push in your chips and move up in a deep draft, you have an opportunity to do that as well. This is going to be a big offseason to see how smart are you really, AK? Like that's just really what it comes. How fucking smart are you? Right? Like you want to be the smartest man in the room. You always want to give this credit for thinking ahead and being advanced and all this type of stuff. What do you really got for us? That's really what this is about this offseason. AK, I said it in a video even before the trade deadline was finished. The only thing that AK really has accelerated is the target on him, the bull's eye on him, the spotlight on him. What are you really about to do? You have created this space, and I'll give you your credit for that. You have created flexibility. But if you don't do nothing with that flexibility, that's just an unused tool, right? So you've created this flexibility. What do you plan on doing with it? How do you plan on using that? What do you plan on executing that actually shows that this team is moving into a direction? Flexibility is not a direction. Flexibility is a goal flexibility is creating a tool that you can then use to refine your direction. You have to go out there now and do that. Will they? We'll see. I don't have a lot of faith, and that's because they haven't earned my faith. But hey, the Bulls have a chance here. Let's say they do something crazy, because it seems like as well the Thunder are probably not going to pick up that option on Isaiah Hartenstein. Let's say the Bulls, what if they sign Isaiah Hartenstein and draft a center? You now have a starting caliber center there for you, a center that you're drafting in, that you're developing in the wing. You already got your forwards you hope of the future of Modest, Jalen, and Noah Essengay. What do you then do, right? So this is an opportunity for AK to really show if you're doing anything. And we'll see. I hope to God that we have clarity. And I'm not saying that clarity needs to be necessarily win now moves, but I would love to be able to say that we have this young, scrappy team that is developing, and we're like, hey, we're not great right now, but if these young guys keep developing the way that they are, give us a year, give us 2 years. We're going to be there. We can be the next Detroit Pistons, maybe, right? Maybe. So we'll see what this team could do. I'm somebody that I'm not optimistic with it, but I do recognize the opportunity that's there. Now we just got to see what AK is going to do with that opportunity, and let's see if he makes something happen with it. With that said, oh, by the way, just because I know people are going to news, everybody knows at this point, the Bulls got one less second-round pick, so now instead of 14, we have 13 because, Coby White had a calf injury that wasn't disclosed. The Hornets found it in the physical, so they took one of the second-round picks. Other than that, no big Bulls news. But let's go ahead and get into the mailbag, man. This first voicemail that we got, this one's from my brother Todd.
Hey, what's up, bro? It is Todd, man. This is probably going to be more of a Bulls therapy note than anything, but I just had to give a shout, man, and just kind of get my thoughts out after the damn deadline. So my thoughts are, why do we love the Bulls? I mean, it can't be for anything beyond the fact that, they represent our city and past successes. So, I'm in marketing, and I'm thinking about things through that lens, and I'm thinking, does that make the Bulls a basketball organization or a marketing and nostalgia brand? And you'll see why I asked that. Because based on the way they operate, especially like yesterday, by jettisoning off Ayo and shit like that, they demonstrate that they embrace mediocrity and have embraced mediocrity essentially since D Rose era, all the way through last night and moving forward. I'd say that it's a nostalgia company with a basketball team. But here's why that gives me hope, y'all. Because they've run out of motherfucking nostalgia. I don't know about y'all, but I had a good cry during that D Rose retirement ceremony. And not only because of my love and respect and connection to D Rose, Southside, stand up, but for the release of all the pain that journey, that saga took us through. But that was it. That's all they got. The cupboard is fucking bare. If they're a nostalgia company, they got nothing else to sell us. So if you're like me and believe that that's all that they're there for, and they're there to extract every penny that they can from our love of what happened in the past, then their business model is done. And what does that mean? They got to create new winning teams. They got to create new nostalgia that they can extract and exploit for decades to come. Because these generations, my kid is 8 years old, and guess he ain't going to have no goddamn relationship with the Bulls. So they got to build something new. So now that gives me hope. That means they got to start looking for new stars, new talent, new people, new players that we can fall in love with. And that starts today. So please be hopeful if nothing else, y'all, because this is going to be a long ass journey, years. But it's up from here because we are at rock bottom. We are in hell, gentlemen. Shouts to Al Pacino. Any given Sunday, we are in hell, and it's time to dig our way out of hell. So let's see what they do from here. All right, hold your heads, as I've said before. But yeah, it's up from here because there ain't no more bottom. All right, see red.
Bro, you give them too much credit. Let's not say the nostalgia's done, because don't forget we have the Ring of Honor. And probably in 2 years, I think when the next Ring of Honor is, do not be surprised if you see the Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah Bulls as a team inducted into that Ring of Honor. Oh, then that's the thing about nostalgia. You can never stop pulling on nostalgia. It just depends. Hey, if they really want to go nostalgic, who's to say that they can't start saying, oh, well, hey, we realize Dennis Rodman's number isn't retired. What about Dennis? Y'all remember Dennis? Start bringing Dennis around, which he's already shown an ability to come around. So listen, I don't have as much hope for you that nostalgia pool is done yet, but I do hope now with the opportunity that I talked about that the Bulls have opened up, that I talked about in that first segment, that hopefully they start actually building towards something and give us something more. Because like you said, it'd be nice to start building our own memories with a new team that like my son. My son's 19 years old. Yeah, he has the Derrick Rose Bulls, so I give that. My 13-year-old son, he doesn't even have the Derrick Rose Bulls. So let's hope that we can start building that, man, and hope that we can start correcting the ship and getting to where we need to get to. All right, let's get into this next voicemail, man. This one's from Jeff.
Hi, hey, this is Jeff. Been a long-time fan of your podcast. Just want to share a few thoughts on the trade now that all the dust are settled. After this, now that I learned that Nick Richards is actually part of the team, I'm actually a little bit less pessimistic because I think the Bulls needed a rim-running, younger center who can do defense, who can play defense, defending the rim. Nick Richards, I've always been following Nick Richards, and I thought he's underutilized, and with a $5 million contract that is expiring, Bulls got him relatively with no additional cost, and I think that's a good thing. So he could very well figure into a starting lineup as a starting center. My biggest problem with the whole trade are threefold. One is the three factors. One is I think AK was contradicting himself when he said that he needs flexibility with this trade. What I mean by flexibility, you had Coby White and Ayo as expiring contract. So those that were very flexible. By the end of the season, we can evaluate what we want to do. So now what do you get? You got Sexton and you got Simons, and those two are also expiring contracts. So you're facing the same problem, except you've been evaluating Ayo and Chris White for the past 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So you know exactly what you have, and you know you can get them, signing them with relatively reasonable contract. And then now that you're going to start all over again with only audition time of, only we're able to audition them for the next less than half a season. So you're back to square one. So that's a contradiction. The other is that the whole league is actually moving towards the whole 6'7", 6'8" center, 6'8", 6'7" size people who can switch on the defense with the size and they can shoot. So you have Ayo, which is 6'5", 6'6", and you have Coby, which is 6'4", 6'5", big guard. What you did is you actually got smaller guards who couldn't defend and who are maybe not as good a shooter like Rob Dillingham. So you basically, at the end of the day, other than Jaden Ivey, which got a decent size, you actually between Anthony Simons and Colin Sexton and Rob Dillingham, you have smaller guards who couldn't really defend. So now you're really going against trends. I don't understand that. My last problem with that is that in case AK has noticed, Ayo was not a distressed asset. It was not toxic asset. You did not have to give them away to get Rob Dillingham. It makes no sense unless you're saying that I see something in Rob Dillingham that no one has seen.
Nick Richards isn't really a rim runner. I wouldn't call him a rim runner. Now, he can be a lob threat. I personally wouldn't call him a rim runner in what I've seen from him, but he is a big that can do that. He's solid, tough big that can just get shit done. And I do want to see what he does for the rest of the season because, hey, that could be your backup big. Zach Collins could very well get shut down the rest of this way, and we'll see what happens there. I want to see Jalen Smith stay at the 4, so I do hope that Nick Richards is given an opportunity to start because I think we've seen Jalen at the 4, Modest at the 3 has been very special for the Chicago Bulls team. Isaac Okoro's defense hasn't been enough for me to not want to try that lineup out a little bit more. But hey, I could be wrong, and we could see Jalen stay at the 5, Modest at the 4, Nick Richards back it up, which it is what it is. But I completely agree with your point as well on Ayo, right? You didn't have to pay Ayo a crazy amount. You already know he fits next to Giannis and Modest. You didn't have to do that. But it is what it is. I've come to peace and terms with it, and we just got to go forward at this point. All right, let's get into the next voicemail, man. This one's from Doug.
Hey, Hayes, this is Doug. I'll keep my thoughts on this trade deadline somewhat brief. I can get behind all the trades that the Bulls made, except for the Ayo Dosunmu trade. Even the Coby White trade seemed like a trade that, well, we're not going to pay you the money that you want this offseason, so we're going to just take the best deal that we can get for you. But the Ayo Dosunmu trade made no sense at all. Even if you'd got a first-round pick back for him, it's so hard to get a player that plays so good on both sides of the ball like Ayo Dosunmu did. And I just felt like that was a bad trade. That was a player that they should have kept. But question for you, now that we have all of these second-round picks and still have a bunch of good players on expiring contracts, what do you think the chances are that we use some of those second-round picks or some of those players, maybe with signing trades, this coming offseason to get more first-round picks in this upcoming draft, being that it's so deep? Maybe, for example, if you do a Anthony Simons and 3 or 4 second-round picks to a team and get nothing back but their 2026 first-round pick, and what would the chances be of doing that and getting 3, 4, maybe 5 first-round picks for all of this in the upcoming draft, depending on where the Portland pick conveys or not? But let me know what you think. Talk to you later. God bless.
They better try to use their picks to move up. I mean, that would be great. Like, I know we talk a lot about just the 2026 draft, but let's say let's say you get the Portland pick. Who's to say you can't throw in 4 first-round picks that you have in later years to try to move up a spot or two, right? So I really hope that they do try to use that flexibility to do that. Now, I do want to point out, you said use Simons. You can't use Simons in a trade of the draft. He's a UFA. You can't do signing trades at that point until the free agency opens in June or July, so that's after the draft. So you wouldn't be able to use Simons in any trades this offseason. You can use him in signing trades, right, to that, but you wouldn't be able to use him like with the Portland pick to move up, because at that point it would already be gone. But just wanted to point that out, Doug. Let's get into this next one. This one's from Samity.
What's up, Hayes? This is Samity from Long Beach, California. Had a question about all the second-round picks that Acme acquired. I have a weird thought. What if all these second-round picks are just used to dump Patrick Williams in the offseason? Like, he has an untradeable contract. What if he just decides to throw Patrick Williams, a couple, second-round picks, 3 or 4 of them, even maybe 2 or 3, and just say, here, random team take this, pause. And then other than that, what do you think the new rotation is going to be the next 30 games with everyone healthy? I see a couple log jams with Ilo, Yabusele, and even Okoro playing. Let me know what you think. First time leaving voicemail. Thank you for your work. Appreciate you. Much love. Go Bulls.
Could second-round picks be used to dump off P. Will? Here's what I'll say. I would say P. Will only had 1 year left, yes. But you got to keep in mind, P. Will has 3 years left on his contract after this year. Even taking second-round picks, I don't think is enough to try to dump off P. Will's contract with that amount of time left to me. So I just don't think that. I don't think that's going to happen, in my personal opinion. I just don't expect that to happen. But as far as your question about the rotation, if fully healthy, right, and this is a big if, because like I said, there's a chance that Josh Giddey could get shut down the rest of the way. But if everybody gets back healthy, your starting lineup at that point is Josh Giddey, probably Colin Sexton, even though I'd want to see Jaden Ivey because I want to get as much data of Jaden Ivey with Josh Giddey so that we make that restricted free agent decision. And then I would go Modest at the 3, Jalen Smith at the 4, Nick Richards at the 5. But I think it's probably going to be Isaac Okoro at the 3, Modest at the 4, and probably Nick Richards at the 5, and then bring Jalen off the bench as your stabilizer because you no longer have Ayo. And then your bench rotation is what? Jalen, Trey Jones, if and when he's healthy. Colin Sexton is being kind of your main guys off the bench at that point in time. So, that's just kind of the way I look at it. Great question, though. Now let's get into this last voicemail, man. This one's from Big O.
What's going on, brother Hayes? It's Big O. Man, I had to call in for this one, man. I had to call in, and I enjoyed your rant in a good way. I share everything that you said, the energy and the disgust and the anger, the angerness and all that stuff. I share with you, brother. When you talk about AK and that dumbass interview he did after the trade deadline. You know, but I got to come to you and I got to rant a little bit with you on this. So, and it's questions that I don't even know if you'll be able to answer, but I'm just going to holler at you. So I understand why everybody, you know, most people have to be traded. I understand why they want to trade Coby. I understand why they want to trade Boots, to an extent, Ayo. But particularly Ayo, okay, you trade Kevin Huerter for Jaden Ivey. To me, Jaden Ivey, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Jaden Ivey and Ayo is a better Jaden Ivey. I say it like that. So you mean to tell me they're hoping that once Jaden Ivey, if Jaden Ivey can get back to form, that he's going to be Ayo Dosunmu. Basically, you want to be able to guard 1, 2s, and maybe 3s. They to play the 1 and the 2. You know, be a Swiss Army knife out there, right? But you got Ayo Dosunmu on your team already, so you trade Ayo in hopes that Jaden Ivey becoming Ayo. To me, it's redundant. Stupid. You know what I mean? We all, you know, I hear you say it all the time. Everybody talk about how Ayo Dosunmu can fit on anything. You know what I mean? Ayo Dosunmu can fit on anything. He can be on the rebuilding team. He can be on the contender team. You know, he's good for any team. So, and then money-wise, you know, you probably been able to get him at a hometown discount. Maybe. But even if not, you know, I'm not scared to pay Ayo $18 million. You know, I mean, that's good value for what he brings to your team, especially when you're talking about building it. So you go get all these guards and hoping that one of them can turn to Ayo Dosunmu defensively at least. So I don't know. I'm kind of lost on that one for sure. Because it's just like you got all these second round picks, so you can go out and try to find another Ayo Dosunmu. So you go out and try to find another good young player in the second round. I don't understand the age, but
I've seen people compare Jaden Ivey and Ayo, and Ivey is your Coby White replacement. Ivy is not the defender that Ayo Dosunmu is. Ivy also is more ball dominant than Ayo is. He needs more shots. He likes to take a lot more shots. He likes to have the ball in his hands, where Ayo was fine kind of floating around, not having to do that. So I don't think that Ivy is your Ayo replacement. He's going to hopefully be your Coby White replacement long term. And I know when people say that because they look at Simons as the Coby White replacement, but I'm talking about more long term here. I think that you're looking at Ivy, that the Bulls are probably hoping that Ivy can be the long term answer at shooting guard. His age is right there with Josh Giddey's. Like I said, before he went down with injury, his numbers were really good as a scorer next to a scoring point guard in Cade Cunningham. He'd be next to more of a facilitator in Josh Giddey. So I think that that's how you're looking at Jaden Ivey, that he can be the long-term 2 next to Josh Giddey. That's my personal opinion, but we'll see. But that's it. That's going to do it for today's episode. I want to hear from you guys in this. Is this finally the rebuild that you guys have been asking for? Is this just another pivot that's happening here now? Drop your thoughts down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. You can follow us at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I liked in every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.